I've always wondered about Bajo de Masinloc. I've talked with fishermen from other provinces. Bajo de Masinloc is a place that was on my list of places to go. I also said, what's the life of the fishermen there? Kasi previously, wala namang political skirmishes in Bajo de Masinloc. So, how is it as a fisherman? What's their life? I was able to go to Bajo de Masinloc last May. You have to be prepared to be out in sea for days. Ngayong hapon, I'm Atty. Goyo, Larrazabal. We're on a boat kasi we want to show what it is to live as a fisherman dito sa Masinloc. Kasama natin si Tony, si Cap Efren, and fellow fishermen dito who live in this area, who fish in this area, who've been fishing here for decades. Ang pag-usapan kasi is always geopolitics. Nakakalimutan na yung mga mangingisda dito sa area. So, let's go on a trip with them, see what it is to live on a boat for how many days. Hopefully, we'll catch some fish. But more importantly, we discover the life of a fisherman dito sa Bajo de Masinloc. Most of them are actually from the Visayas and Mindanao. So when we were in the boat, Bisaya ang storya namo. Di mi mag-Tagalog, no English, Bisaya, because that's what everybody's accustomed to. Yung isa, yung kapitan, sabi niya, he's from Davao. His father brought him to Masinloc. Yung isa, he was still 19, from Lapu-Lapu. Sumama siya with yung mga kaibigan niya, papunta na Masinloc.
Ano tayo, 20 na lang mula Scarborough.
Scarborough.
20 na lang. So nakabiyahe na tayo ng 105 miles.
So, ang tawag sa tao, Scarborough, but ang tawag sa local is Scarborough. Scarborough.
Mga kami, pag nagsasalubong, saan kayo punta?
Scarborough.
At tubig Scarborough. At punta kami Scarborough.
Moto, kahapon, sige gusto din Scarborough. Asan Scarborough?
10-15 miles na nakay masilip-silip pa ng ali-aligid na barko. Mga kaibigan. Hindi naman talaga sila mangharas yan, basta wala lang manggulo.
Next, why musod?
Why musod? Ayaw kag sud atong bukana. Basta dito ra kasi imong destinasyon, di makaunsaon. Sundan lang kanila, siguro tanaw nila sa imong pangalan diha sa bangka.
Para kibaw sila. Mangingisda gyud mo din, di ba?
Kaya nga si Madam pinalagyan niya talaga ng serbisyong putog, Masinloc.
Para kibaw sila na Masinloc yun din.
Galing Masinloc, Serbisyong putog. Meron tayong serbisyong putog.
Serbisyong putog. Well, sabi naman nila, there were times kasi na there were big ships dredging in the area. Overnight, as in, big ships na dredging pagkatapos, marami na nag-fish doon. As in, and the difference is the Filipino fishermen there do spear fishing. I said, bakit kaya hindi gumagamit ng net? Sabi na, one reason is that it gets tangled with the corals, di ba? Medyo malalim. Sabi kasi nila, it gets fish that they don't need. So, sayang daw. That's why, spearfishing. And they've been doing it for decades. And it works naman. But it's, like I said, it's really different now kasi unlike before, less talaga yung isda now. There's a guy we met, Ronnie. That guy's impressive. He rides a bangka, throws a line, di ba? For tangigi. He does really tangigi fishing. But his right hand is amputated. So he fishes, and when he gets a fish, he uses his left hand and clips the line here, and with just one hand, he can bring in big fishes. he caught a barracuda the first day. Yung iba kasi, iba-ibang isda eh. There are also fishermen who fish for aquarium fish there. So, they fish in the morning, they get fishes, they put it in mga plastic containers, compressed air, wrap it up, and they do that twice a day, morning and afternoon, para new air, fresh water. There are spear fishermen who fish for, hindi masyado malaki, but the ones at night are the ones who fish for big fishes talaga. And they fish from like 7 in the evening hanggang early morning. The stories they tell about how beautiful and how bountiful Bajo de Masinloc was. If you just stand, biglang the water's up below your waist, you put your hand below the water, you can easily pick up a fish. 2 days lang, puno na yung bangka nila. Now, 1 week, minsan kulang pa. You know, it's dark, and you can just see in the ocean just lights. And those are the fishermen already fishing at night. And it's hard, huh? I tried swimming there. The current is crazy, and it's impressive how these fishermen are able to fish hours at a time. Just nasanay siguro. It takes a lot of training. A lot. I swam in Scarborough Shoal, or a semblance of it. And when you see them, I saw them swimming. It was so effortless. And they were spearfishing while I was hardly able to stand up and go around. And they were just swimming so flawlessly, effortlessly. Just a mask and flippers. The flippers are actually fiberglass. And I asked, how do you pedal? How do you move? There's a technique. It's not just up and down. It's just you have to go side. There's a technique on how they use their flippers. When they look at I used training flippers for swimming. No, they laughed at it. Sabi, when they looked at it, tawas lang tawa. And they make them, and there's rubber straps, and there's actually plastic covering the wrist to protect their feet. There's a fisherman. I put a GoPro on his hand. So while he was spearfishing, makita mo talaga na sometimes he misses, sometimes he can. And at the end of the video, you see like, di ba, he puts it on a string, di ba? It's like 20 fishes already there in an hour. That's impressive. Takes a lot of skill. Sabi nga, huwag ka lang lumangoy doon sa medyo malalim kasi baka makakita ka ng last trip. Last trip, apating. There's so much fish before that their trips wouldn't last more than a few days. And they go back, punong-puno na barko nila. Now, again, it's hard. Yung kapitan ng barko, si Captain Efren, who I got to converse with, he was a young guy when he got to Masinloc. He married taga Masinloc. They have kids now. His oldest daughter, married a fisherman who also works on the boat of Captain Efren. But the wife actually doesn't work in Masinloc. The wife of the Kapitan works in Saudi as an OFW. Sabi ko, bakit? Kasi medyo mahirap buhay. Because, again, the catch is not as much as before. Considering that the boat they use was provided by the municipality through a cooperative, so mas less ang gastos nila. Despite that, as compared to before, mas less yung kita nila. So, make ends meet. The wife is now based in Saudi. I said nga na, di ba she'll rest lang? Sabi niya, baka when her contract ends at the end of the year or early next year, baka she'll rest na sa dalawang year. his daughter, eldest daughter, is also an OFW, despite being married to a fisherman in OFW in Singapore, again, to make ends meet. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard life.
No! Tinitrain ko para mawala ang hilo.
It's their life, eh. You see guys there who, like for example, si Tony, his son, Rain, was there. So, they're passing it on na, eh. In fact, some of them were brought into Masinloc by their dads or their relatives to help fish. I guess it's a way of life for them. Sanay na sila, eh. I slept in, alam mo yung styrofoam na lalagyan ng isda, na may ice sa loob. Like may plywood lang sa taas. I slept in that the first night. Parang ganito ka-wide. Ganyan. I had to crouch, no? Good thing I'm not tall naman, so pwede. The second night, I slept in dalawa na, so medyo I could stretch out na. But yung iba, they sleep in those containers. They sleep in the cutting. They sleep in sa taas. May beds or parang plywood behind the captain's steering wheel. No? At problema lang dun is it's a bit noisy kasi engine and medyo may amoy because of the diesel fumes. No? So I slept there. The last night, nagkamali ako. Kasi you're supposed to sleep front to back, di ba? Last night, there's a second, parang may viewing, parang may chair sa taas on top of where the captain is. I slept sideways and it was a bit choppy, so medyo my body jumped a couple of times, so nagkasakit yung likod ko because it's wood, di ba? Before kasi, years ago, long time ago, everybody would fish there together. In fact, they would look forward to seeing vessels from other countries kasi they would swap, eh. For example, they'd give fish to, like for example, the Chinese, then the Chinese would give them masarap daw, their description, masarap na noodles. So they would barter. Yung iba, they would trade with liquor. But that changed in recent years. Parang umigbit na yung Chinese, hindi na pwede pumasok sa lagoon. When we were there would be militia and Coast Guard vessels who would go by the ship to our vessel and parang mag-visual check. There were times daw na may kasama silang foreigner who would, they want to dive or they want to do a documentary. Once makita daw, parang minomonitor talaga. In fact, there's one time na the Coast Guard stayed beside the vessel for hours. As in, hours. Yung isang beses na biglang out of nowhere, they heard a whirling sound. May drone na pala sa taas nila kasi monitoring. Kasi there's a foreigner. They were not prevented from fishing, but they were, parang, I get a feeling na doon ka, o dito lang kayo ha, hindi sila pwede pumasok. Parang may spots sila na they can fish. So their activities and movements are monitored. When I used to drive from Batangas to, like, take a Roro to Mindoro or to Caticlan, when you leave Batangas, alam mo yung, you could see the bright lights from the port, di ba? In Bajo de Masinloc, it's so dark because it's nothing, di ba? And you could see bright lights, like 2 lights from afar. Another 2 lights here, another 2 lights here. So, I would ask, ano yan? Mga barko ng Chinese vessels. Because those are big vessels. There are Chinese Coast Guard, PLA ships, Navy ships, there are militia ships, and there are shipping vessels. So there are 4 types of Chinese vessels there. The 4th is the fishing vessel. And there's a militia, and there's the Chinese Coast Guard, and we saw a Chinese Navy. But the Chinese Navy ship was further from the shoal na. The shoal itself is yung tatlo lang, mga white na shipping vessels, white na Coast Guard, and blue militia ship. They just keep on going around and around. So, may vessels na umikot. Like, may vessels na stationary lang. In fact, we saw 2 Chinese Coast Guards at the mouth of the lagoon. You wear a bonnet kasi sabi na mag-bonnet daw para hindi daw halata na parang foreigner. Sabi ko, why? Kasi medyo, I'm still dark, but I'm not to look like a regular fisherman and to wear a bonnet. No? There were some vessels there that would go around. No? They would take a visual check. There was one time na we were interviewed live. So, we used, may internet connection kami, Starlink. After that, as in there's no vessels near in the horizon, biglang, kita na, bakit may lumapit na ship? So, sabi na, parang have to cut the feed, di ba? The vessel came near, stayed there, umalis. A Coast Guard came near, stayed there for quite some time. Parang it's very intimidating. Kasi those are big vessels. Way back in 2014, kwento ng isang fisherman, nabangga daw sila ng isang militia vessel ng Chinese. So, looking at those big vessels, and we look at the bangka, parang, okay, if something happens, if something's going to ram us, I brought a life vest, but if something's going to ram us, wala kaming laban. We anchored near the shoal naman, but again, iba kasi kung nasa loob ka because you're protected talaga. And before, like you mentioned, kung may masama ng panahon, they can just go in. Now, hindi na pwede. You can't. There's 3 Chinese Coast Guards there guarding the entrance. Welcome to Scarborough Shoal. That one, see that? That one, that light blue, that's the shoal. It's high tide now, pero pag low tide, may makikita kang mga bato dyan. I walked there yesterday. I walked Scarborough Shoal. It's a different experience altogether. So, that one is a barracuda na they caught yesterday. So this is Scarborough Shoal, everybody. And it's a really different experience. The fishermen make do. They just adjust na lang. That's the thing that we wanted to discover. How do they live there despite all of this? They make do but takot sila. But yung iba is you just have to live with it because that's their life. Well, at that time, we were able to have internet connection. And for the longest time now, that was the first time they've ever been able to call their families from Bajo de Masinloc. No one has ever tried doing that. So they were calling their family.
Wala, nandito. Nagpakunik sa
Saan ka? Scarborough eh. Scarborough. Ay, di mo naman. So they were showing the view of the shoal, di ba? We brought Starlink. And they were so happy na parang like they were able to call their families in the Philippines, Hong Kong, Singapore, in Saudi Arabia, na parang iba Kasi the life nila is for 7 days, wala kang contact. The only contact we have with the outside world is a radio, a high-frequency radio, to check on the news. And probably, they have a transistor radio. But that's it. They can't be called, or they can't call for 1 week. And that's hard. You're in the middle of nowhere. Wala kang gagawin. So yung iba, before sabi nila, matutulog sila. In the morning, matutulog yung mangingisda ng gabi, the people who fish in the morning. I'm used to traveling and being by myself because I normally drive like days, sometimes weeks, solo, wala akong kasama. So I'm used to not talking to people. I can call people, but I'm used to being myself. Despite that, it's still hard. It was still hard. Added to the fact that we had internet connection. So we can call whenever we needed to. Added all this, for me, it was very difficult. And I can't even begin to imagine how difficult life is for them na you're cut out from the outside world for a week. Ang hirap doon. As in, something happens to you, wala. And to get to Masinloc is 17 hours. So if something happens to you there, wala ka talaga. Wala. I had a Philippine flag in my bag. And some people suggest, why don't you go there, stand on Scarborough Shoal, wave a Philippine flag. Okay, I'll do that. But what happens after? You say, there will be blowback. And if the purpose is just to look good, I'd do that. But the purpose was to discover and live the life of the fisherman, see what can be done. And doing that, in my opinion, would be counterproductive, would be not good for the fishermen who live there. Whatever I did, if I did something bad, they would suffer for it. And I don't want that. And the third day, we had to go back because ang sabi nila is the weather will be it's going to be a bit windy, so medyo chopping waters from 8 to 11, May 8 to 11. So sabi nila, alis na kayo, you put the fish from both bangkas in that bangka, next yung ice ilipat sa kabila, so mauna na kami, the other bangka will stay behind. They monitor the news. Then they have a radio there. There's a high-frequency radio. Sa kanila is that night, the second night, medyo it's a bit windy. Sabi lang, ganyan yan, ganito. Ganito yung mga buwan. Ganyan talaga na biglang in the morning, it's so calm, next pagkagabi, windy. As in, nakabalot talaga kami sa gabi. It's wide open, di ba? So, they can tell na, ganyan, there's cloud formation up on the horizon, sa bandang south. Yung ganyan, uulan yan. Pero hindi abot dito kasi the wind is going south. So, they're so sanay. It's an interesting experience na traveling 17 hours and one way, staying there 3 days, second 17 hours on the way back. But I feel that it gave me a better perspective of life of fishermen in Scarborough Shoal. Kasi, for example, when I was there, there's a genset na may sira. I had a key holder actually that they had to cut off to open the carburetor. It's gasoline. And I said, hey, can I offer to buy a genset para sa inyo? Sabi na, hindi na sir, kasi mas mabuti, solar na lang. Sabi ko, genset kasi it's power. Then he said, di, kasi yung genset, maingay. Kung solar, magamit namin, makatulog kami. Testing. You know, we have our own perceptions on what we want to do for others. But that was a reminder that if you want to help people, get their opinion, get their perspective of how they want the problem solved. Because you might be giving them something that they don't need. So, it's best to ask. That was a very good reminder that it's best to ask them how they can be helped more efficiently. And that brings to fore na, you know, like Starlink, we facilitated the donation of a Starlink for them, diba? Hopefully, they'll be able to use it. But, you know, everybody talks about solar farm, solar for all over the Philippines. But, you know, that was a very small but very practical application of how technology can help the fishermen. Bye-bye. It makes it more concrete na ito pala pagtulong. Ito yung maliit na bagay. Or sa atin, baka maliit yun, but sa kanila, sobrang laki ng bagay yan because it's helping them live life better while they're trying to catch fish.